All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started as people are logging on. Um, my name's Christina Wales. I'm the Associate Director of Media for GBMC HealthCare, and I also have the distinct pleasure of co-hosting a podcast with our presenter today, Dr. Theresa Nguyen. This is also probably, I think the weather decided to help us out with this particular topic because I don't know if kids are home from school and using screens way more than we would like, but this will help us get back on track. So I think we all know the acceleration of tech can make it really hard for parents to keep up. And while we don't really need to have a firm grasp on every new app or development, we really do need to teach our children how to become good stewards and discerners of the media content that is designed to steal their attention, and it is in fact designed that way. There are lawsuits pending right now that in the courts, to I guess prove that that is or is not the case. And I like that Dr. Nguyen says often your most prized commodity is your attention. And I think while we definitely want to give that away free to our kids, we do not want to give it away free to the doom scroll. So thank you everyone so much for attending today. If you have a question, we had some that were submitted in advance, but if you have a question or comment, feel free to leave it in the chat. You can have it for everyone to see, or you can message me directly if you'd like me to bring a question to Dr. Nguyen at the end. First, we're going to let Dr. Nguyen sort of give us a broad overview of this topic, and then we'll jump into questions. And before I let her get started, I'll just give you a short introduction. So Dr. Nguyen is our chair of pediatrics at GBMC HealthCare. She also practices integrative medicine, which is a whole person approach to healing. And she talks a lot about adolescent mental health. She's very passionate about that and working at multiple levels with the Maryland Academy of Pediatrics, Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, to touch on some of these subjects and make sure that our kids are healthy in body, mind, and spirit. So Dr. Nguyen, go ahead and take it away, and we'll get started.
Wow, great. Thank you, Christina. Christina, I am delighted to be here, and thank you for co-hosting with me our Practical Parenting podcast. So as mothers, as well as what we do in our day jobs, we are learning together with our parents. So I'm really happy to share this webinar with you. So a couple of things that I do want to get us all started. Hey, we're not aiming for perfection. We're all going to make mistakes as parents, right? And we learn our parenting skills as we parent. You can read all the books in the world, but until you're parenting your specific child, and each one of your children, if you have more than one, are different, even if they share the same genetics. So I want to reassure everyone, this is a safe zone. And we're all learning together, myself and Christina included, along with you. So just kind of what is media literacy? It is the ability to decode media messages, assess their influence, and create their own media thoughtfully and conscientiously, okay? Media literacy helps kids understand how the media is made, what it's trying to do, and how does it affect their thoughts and emotions, and how does it affect what they do and how they interact. Okay, so that's media literacy. Important concept for us to start with. And then what's digital literacy? Digital literacy expands this concept further to include navigating online tools, evaluating credibility, knowing what's truth and what's fiction. And we adults even have, difficulty discerning that at some points. And then also communicating ethically and being safe, because ultimately that's why we're all here, right? We want to be able to raise our children in the digital age in a way that is also protects them. Too much media is not good. Too little media is also not necessarily good. So somewhere in the middle. So if you imagine a U-shaped curve, you want to be in the lower end of, you want to be in the middle. Okay. So neither extreme. too much. They're stealing time away, their attention away from other activities such as sports, socialization, other artistic, creative things, reading. Okay, we know that digital media and media in general has affected the reading level in America, and health and well-being. But here's the other part: if you don't have any, and you don't allow your child any media at all, there's a point that they're going to be left out. All kids, about 90% of American children have phones, smartphones by the time they're 11. Okay, and yeah, that's troubling. 95% of folks have social media accounts by the time they're 14. So it can be a helpful tool. The idea of having social media is that it can expose us to new ideas and perspectives, and it could possibly engage us with other communities. Let's say you have a rare interest in a certain type of collecting, and there's nobody else in your little town that does that. Media may help you connect with other folks in other places who have this rare interest as well. Or if you're a child or a young adult in a small community that does not have many LGBTQ plus a large community of LGBTQ plus support, your social media can offer that support through a peer group as well. But when you use too much of it, and it becomes like every free moment of your life, and the numbers are staggering, that children can spend up to 7 to 8 hours on screens a day is shocking to me. Okay. But you've probably experienced it. And here's the thing: the studies have shown if you're on social media less than 2 hours a day, it will not likely affect your mental health. Whereas for the young adults and the adolescents who are on social media and they're upwards of beyond the 2 hour limit on a day, it is more likely to affect their mental health. And there's a lot of studies going on right now associating overuse, okay, of social media with negative impacts on mental health, meaning anxiety and depression, suicidal ideation. So what are the big things? What can parents do? I want to give you 3 resources that we'll talk about in answering your questions. The first resource is the Family and Media Plan. I think every family that has children that are going to be on some kind of screen, whether it's the computer screen, the iPad, or a smartphone, you should establish a family and media plan, just as we set rules in our house for behaviors that are acceptable and non-acceptable. A family and media plan is something that sets the ground rules, right? The foundation for the use of media for every member of the family. So we're not just pulling out our kids, it's us, the parents, we have to be a part of it. Where can you find it? It is on healthychildren.org, which is the AAP resource for parents. And I really encourage you, rather than just Googling whatever your parent question is, please go to healthychildren.org. And for this, do healthychildren.org family media plan. Okay. So that's resource number 1. The second resource I have is the American Academy of Pediatrics has a Center of Excellence for Social Media and Youth Mental Health. All of that on one website and in one place that then you can go out and seek other videos or resources, articles. So I love it. It is you would put in AAP, Center of Excellence, Social Media and Youth Mental Health. And there you go. And a lot of the material that I use for our conversation is based on both of those resources. And then the other one is Common Sense Media. I know that probably the majority of you have heard about it, and I hope that you are using it in helping you decide what is appropriate for your children at their chronological age and their developmental age. So it's parents giving honest reviews about the social media resources out there and the apps, right? Anything that comes up on a screen, there's going to be a review, and it's a parent review of it, so that they're speaking the same language that we're all speaking. So really important, common sense media. And then there's 5 C's of media guidance that I want to review with you all, and then I'll open it up for questions. So this is like kind of the guiding principles from the AAP regarding media guidance for our children. The first C is child. Is the content, know your child. Is the content, development is, what developmental level is your child? Is it appropriate for their developmental level? Okay. And the second C is the actual content, right? We want to ensure that the content is appropriate for your child's developmental level and social developmental level and emotional developmental level, right? And then third, it's calm. A lot of people use screens to calm their kids when they're, they're having a meltdown, whatever. Go watch your favorite thing, right? And what I'd like to say is, let's search for other ways that children can calm themselves and self-soothe rather than just an electronic device of some kind. Okay, what is that? Activity. A child becomes overwhelmed, and what they need is to let go of that energy that they have, that pent-up energy. Get them outside, even though it's freezing. I don't know too many kids who don't like playing in the snow. So get them outside, find a different calming thing rather than other than a screen. And crowding. My fourth C is crowding. What is being online or on media? What is it crowding out? What other activities are you crowding out? What are you missing out on? Because ultimately, it's always about FOMO, fear of missing out for kids. So it might be helpful to say, what other things do you enjoy? I remember you used to like playing with the kids in the neighborhood. I remember that you really enjoyed, sledding, or whatever it is, or a musical instrument or art or reading for pleasure. Okay, you get so many more nuances from reading something than rather just seeing the movie script of it, right? The movie of it. And then lastly, but actually probably the first thing, is communication. We want to communicate with our children. We want to set those expectations early on. And when we're talking about media with our kids, some questions you might all consider are, what do you like about this platform that you're using? Okay. How do you feel when you're on it? And how do you feel after you're on it? Really just honing in a little bit on their self-reflection and their awareness of what it gives them and what it might take away from them, right? Because I don't think that every child is going to say, oh, it's great all the time. There are kids when they realize that, when they doom scrolled enough for, hours on end, and now they've compared themselves with everybody else's perfect, I'm putting in quotes, virtual life, they're feeling pretty down about themselves. They're not feeling terribly confident, right? And have you seen anything that's concerning? Is there, and make it integrate these questions into whenever it's possible. It's not a one and done deal, right? Everything that we do with parenting, you have to introduce it, reintroduce it, and then find the opening in the situation that you're in to go, oh, this is a good time to ask, my daughter or my son about this. So some questions to remember. What do you like about social media? Or the platform that you're on, or whatever computer game that you're playing? How do you feel when you're on it? And how do you feel after you've been doing it? And have you seen anything concerning? Okay. And then also we want to help them understand what's fact and what's fiction. That's what I always say. I want to remind parents who want to know, like, when's the right time for my child to get a phone? When's the right time for my child to be on all these apps? children do not develop discernment, okay, this is a developmental thing, until they're about 14 years of age, and that's entry into high school usually. It can be plus or minus a year here or there, okay? Only you will know what that age of discernment is for your child, but that's just a guidance. So 14 years, yet we know that 90% of our children have cell phones by the time they're 11. So, that's a red flag there. And then most importantly, like I've always said, is setting the example. I mean, you cannot say, there's got to be phone-free time in the household if you don't model that, right? So one of the easiest things is, I think you can start with just no phones at the dining room table. When you're actively eating, you should be talking with each other. Everyone shouldn't be on their own cell phone. If you're out at a restaurant, please engage with each other and talk. You should not be on 4 or 5 different cell phones, right? And so those are my main points. Your modeling is so key. And I am thinking back to something that Christina and I had shared on our podcast about digital literacy. And it was, if we're spending time with our children, we want them to feel that they are the center of our attention. But how often do we have our phone in our other hand? I'm guilty, guilty as charged. So what I want to encourage folks is have phone-free time with your child. Like unless the house is burning down, leave that cell phone in the other room and really play or talk or chat, whatever it is that you're doing with your child, be fully engaged, because you can't set a rule and then you have an exception. So too much talking on my part. I'd like to open it up for questions, and I think that Christina is going to feed me questions from the chat. So question away, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nguyen. That was a really good broad overview. You mentioned earlier about this balance that we need to strike with our kids about not doing it too much, but not doing it enough. So I think this question applies to that. How do we keep our kids secure and okay when we don't allow them access to Roblox or Snapchat? Those, I think, are two that, pretty much come to the top when we think about potentially unsafe apps. As their peers, are swearing by their fun and pulling them in the opposite direction of what we're saying in terms of safety.
I think it boils down to communication, right? Having that open conversation from the very start with your children. There are certain things that, your friends will do that we don't do, and setting the expectation, the ground rules that almost everything we do together here in the family and the rules that we set are meant to keep you safe. Okay, and you want to give explanations why you don't think certain apps are safe for kids. So with Roblox, I get it. It is really fun. And, I do think it's really creative. But maybe they're only going to be able to do it when you're present and only you have the access to it, right? So they're not doing it freely. And what's behind that? The child predators out there are so smart, and Roblox is one of their peak platforms for recruiting children. They will, play off as a peer, a friend, and they will win your child's confidence. And for younger kids, it could be as easy as, like candy. For older kids, it might be like establishing this friendship and then meeting up somewhere for you to get a phone. Right. And then do you see it gets more nefarious. And then, having your child send pictures of themselves, inappropriate pictures of themselves. And then the child is caught like, oh my gosh, I'm going to show these pictures to your parents if you don't do X, Y, or Z. So it's totally about digital safety. That's why you're limiting it. And, whether your child who's 5 or 6 is playing Roblox by themselves versus your older teenager, that's different, right? So also explain why, the differences in age. And also, be really clear that they don't ever want to have a stranger know where they are and where they live. So personal information, this is part of your family media plan, is that you want to set the boundaries for your kids. Like, it's not safe for you to ever share personal information on the web, okay? And let's see. You're communicating, you're getting that shared plan, and you're asking their feedback also. You are not the decider of all things. I mean, yes, you're going to mediate it at the end, but you want to hear what they have to say about, like, hey, what do you think is, an appropriate amount of time? And okay, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no more than 2 hours of screen time for school-aged children outside of schoolwork, okay, on a daily basis. You might modify that. You might say, we're not doing it, or you're just 1 hour during it's school week because there are a lot of other activities, okay? Things that you can do is that you can set timers on the use of these devices and the games and the apps. You can shut them down at 9 o'clock. You can, any games that your child is playing, it dies after an hour. That's it. You're setting the time limit there. But let them know in advance and ask them, do you have what are your thoughts? What do you think of this? Okay. And they'll try to negotiate, and that's okay. They're building their negotiation skills, life skills there.
A collaborative approach might work really good with this next question we got in the chat about it gets tricky when they need to be on screens for schoolwork, and there's different types of screen usage. And so how do we manage handling limits for the different types? She's talking specifically about an 11-year-old, but it could be anything from watching shows, schoolwork, playing educational games, or art and music apps to just like trashy games.
That's a great question. And here's my number one rule. All your electronic use should be in an open space, right? So there should not be any electronics in the bedroom. Anything with a screen should not be in the bedroom, okay? That means, yes, your computer, your iPad, your portable laptop, your phone. Please set that expectation at the beginning. This sounds really like, wow, she's really nuclear on this. I had this idea, and I've been coaching my parents for, forever, 25 years plus, right? And now it's coming out. The psychologists are saying it also. And there's many other groups advocating for this. Why? Because if your child or your young adult is on social media and they're in or watching stuff, right? And if they're in a common living space in the house, it's hard to do too many nefarious things. Can't get on a porn site. Your parents will see that, It's just so that's the expectation, and that your room is really just for sleep. It is not for you to hole up in there, close the door, and never interact with the family again. And there's settings for devices, and I want to remind people that you want to redo the safety controls if your operating system upgrades, because it goes to 0, right, after a system upgrade. And it's about the communication with that 11-year-old child, setting the limits, and they can be a part of it. There's a limit that you set on the different games, like game platforms, right? And then there is also a timer. I have a suggestion. I say for every half hour you're on your electronics, you also need to be doing something physical, okay, outside, or inside, away from the screen. So if you want 2 hours of screen time, you're going to be doing 2 hours of physical activity. It should be fun stuff, playing, right? But kids have forgotten that. Does that answer that question?
I think so, yeah. We also have a question about interacting with other families. So what's the best way to start a conversation with a child's friend's parents about screen use in their house? If their digital use might be different from ours, and how do we, go about approaching that with other parents, but also talking to our own children about, like, why the rules are different, or, being safe in someone else's house where we don't have eyes on them?
Great question, and it's one of the 5 C's of one of the 5 C's for media guidance, right? It's communication, communication with your child, communication with your child's friends' parents, right? Like just as you might ask, what are your rules? If your child is going to attend a sleepover, you kind of want to know who's at home, what are the general rules in that household? Are there any guns there? Okay. And if there are they locked away? I think social media exposure, and you also want to understand what their rules and boundaries are for their kids on this. You cannot self-impose your standards for your child at their home, but at least you will know what it is, right?
Mhm.
What is really effective, I've had groups of parents, like, some kids they stick together like all of elementary school, right? And so you have a core group of friends, get to know those parents, because if the same thing is happening in every household of the children that your children are hanging out with, it makes it so much easier, right? Annie's mom says the same thing, Trevor's mom says the same thing, so it's the same. I think of this as, when we've spoken with, when my kids were teenagers, I definitely had conversations with their friends' parents. Let's say they're going to a party, and I'm going to be like, hey, just checking in. And I did this as early as middle school, by the way. Just want to know what your ground rules are for alcohol and drugs in your house, and what level of chaperoning are you doing with the kids when they're there? You know, from there, then you'll know if this is an appropriate place that you would be okay with your child going to. And the same with the social media expectations of your children's friends as well. So it really is the communication. One of my parents recently is in this collaborative with, I don't know, I think it's her children's friends, close friends, and the parents have all agreed no cell phones until high school. Okay. So for this small group of young women who are in middle school, where many, if not the majority of their peers already have cell phones, their core group, the parents all have the same agreement, right? We're not doing cell phones until 14. So it makes it a little bit more palatable. It's not just like you being the only person, in your friend group or in your school, God forbid, who doesn't have a cell phone in middle school. It's a challenging one. So I really want to, give a shout out to this parent who, is involved in this and has gotten a group of parents together to agree to this collaboration.
I love that. And I think if we're thinking about it for our own kids, maybe be the first one to say something in your group, because maybe other people are, other moms or other parents are thinking the same thing, but they might not want to approach you for fear of having different values. But if you can be the bold one to step up, then I think you'll probably be surprised at how many other parents are like, oh, thank God that you brought it up.
Absolutely. I love it.
So awesome. Well, we're at time. I know that's an incredibly heady topic to cover in 30 minutes, but hopefully we gave you some great tips for starting these conversations with your kids. This webinar was recorded, so we will be sending out the recording as well as the links that we mentioned in an email afterwards to wrap it up. But if you have any other questions, feel free to respond to that email or to the one that sent you the reminders for this webinar, because this is definitely a topic that I know there's a lot of confusion about, and it's ever changing. So, and then lastly, I will plug our podcast. Dr. Nguyen and I co-host a podcast called Practical Parenting. Again, in the wrap up, I will send over the link to the episode that we did discussing digital literacy, but we cover topics all over from babies to young adults and everything in between. So if you have a burning question that you want answered, we're always looking for topic ideas that are relevant to our audience. So thank you everyone for taking time out of your lunch to be with us, and we hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Hey, I saw one last question that I do want to do a quick response to. Cell phones, is there a way to have a phone for urgent calls but no social media? Yes, the flip phone. Go back to that flip phone.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.